is our poet laureate, Supervisor Slocum.
Thank you, Madam President. Very excited this morning. We have our San Mateo County Poet Laureate with us this morning, Eileen Casanedo. And as you know, each quarter she comes and attends a board meeting and shares poetry with us. And this morning we have a very special guest who, because of traffic and parking, nearly didn't make it, had us all a bit nervous that there were 6 minutes to go and she wasn't here, but her mom thankfully found and dropped her off and got us space, and everybody's here now. So thank you both, mom and daughter, for coming to share this with us. I would call Eileen up to the podium to introduce this item.
Good morning, President Groom, Honorable Board of Supervisors, Mr. Kalagi, Mr. Byers, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to celebrate National Book Month. I also wish to thank youth poet Chyanne Robinson and Miss Tanisha Robinson, Chyanne's mother, for joining us today. In April, I was one of the judges of the first ever youth poetry contest, co-sponsored by the City of Menlo Park and the Menlo Park Public Library. The contest celebrated youth literacy and creative expression with original works of poetry on the theme, If I Were a Book. A total of 188 entries were received from young people ages 7 to 18. I thought it was a challenging theme, and so I was tempted to write a few lines myself. Here's what I wrote. If I were a book, I hope I had sustained you, that my words were worth their weight in lampblack and wood pulp. I hope your art keeps rising. I hope you overcome. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce Chyanne Robinson, a student at Oxford Day Academy in East Palo Alto and grand prize winner of the first Menlo Park Youth Poetry Competition.
Good morning. My name is Chyanne Robinson, and today I will be reading my poem, If I Were a Book. If I were a book, I wouldn't invite you in just yet. I fear that if I let you in, you may hurt me in an instant. If I were a book, my main character would struggle with trusting people, because people started breaking her trust at an early age. If I were a book, I fear that if I were to trust you, you would simply walk out of my life. So instead, I keep the pages closed. If I were a book, I would tell you about family separation, about a mother leaving her family and her children not knowing why. If I were a book, I would tell you about my older sister having to surrender her childhood because she had to take care of me. If I were a book, I would empathize with someone who may feel alone and worthless because I know what that feels like. If I were a book, I would tell you about feeling alone, about a cloudy mindset making it impossible to think straight as dark thoughts build up. If I were a book, I would struggle with capturing a happy memory because it is elusive, disappearing before I can write it. If I were a book, I would tell you about multiple deaths and a child who blames herself for the death of her grandmother, her uncle, and her cousins. If I were a book, I would tell you about not wanting to go to school, not wanting to have friends, blocking myself from the world because being alone allowed me to hide my sadness. If I were a book, my tattered pages would resist being straightened. No, I do not want to go to a shrink. No, I'm not going through a phase. No, I'm not too young to feel this pain. If I were a book, I would tell you about being bullied because I did not look like the other girls or because I chose to follow the rules. If I were a book, I would tell you about being bullied because I was black and called ugly, or that my hair did not flow like white or Latina girls. If I were a book, I would fade away, like my depression.
Chyanne, thank you very much for sharing those words with us. And if we could, everybody with a cell phone and a camera, I'd like to get a picture, if we could, of our poet laureate and the mother, if we could.